Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being our audience today for this panel discussion. I'm very excited to welcome you and for you to be a part of this and to ask questions of our panelists. Today we have people who were at the Old Greely School. The Old Greely School was located at the corner of Grace and Sheffield in the Uptown/Lakeview, right on the cusp of Lakeview and Uptown in years ago. And it was built in 1896. And it was torn down in 1978. This is a picture of the Old Greely School. We have 4 people who were there in various roles at the Old Greely School, and they're going to talk to you about when they were there and what their names are, of course, and what their roles were at the Old Greely School. And then we also have Mr. Carlos Escoitia, the current principal of the New Greely School, where we are standing right now. And the year now, for the record, is 2016, and we are at 832 West Sheridan Road in Chicago, Illinois, 60613. So I'll pass the microphone to Mrs. Benjamin so that she can talk to you first.
You don't need to.
You want me to use this one?
Yeah, use that mic. And don't hold the microphone so close to the mouth because you hear popping, so be about 6 or 8 inches away.
Okay. I first went to Greely School in 1971, not as an elementary school person, but as a college student. I was looking for a classroom that I could observe in and get some college credit. And the principal at the time was very receptive to my coming into the school, and I was able to do my observation there. I was also able to do a practicum, and in 1972, I did my student teaching at Greely. When I graduated from college, I was able to teach at Greely School. And one of my fond memories is that we were right down the street from Wrigley Field, and when the Cubs hit a home run, you could hear the cheering, and it was always very exciting. What else to say? You're going to cut this part out. Can we go to somebody else?
Keep talking about how you made it to here.
So you made it up to here. So you got to where you came
Okay.
to school.
Okay, so in 1972, I was student teaching and then teaching at Greely School. I left after the school year of 1974 to stay home with my children, and I always maintained contact with the school. I substituted and stayed friends with a lot of the teachers and the principal. And when I came back in 1984, I came back to the new school at 832 West Sheridan, and I've been here ever since. This year is 2016, and it is my last year at Greely School.
Hi, my name is Maria Chevrolet, and I attended Greely from 1973 to 1980 as a student. In 1991, I started working here as a teacher assistant, and then in 1994, I started as a teacher. What I remember about the old school is just the spaciousness of it, and the big rooms and the big hallways and the big windows and being able to open the windows. I remember the boys' bathroom being in the basement, and the girls' bathroom on the second floor. Oh, and the gym on the third floor, and the library right below it on the second floor. So during library hours, we would hear the running around in the gym as we were trying to read quietly. I guess that's it.
Hi. My name is Penny Shropshire. I'm the first graduating class of the new Greely. I started Greely in 73. I went to Brenneman before that. I started in 73. I graduated from the old Greely to the first class of the new Greely. I remember the gym, like you said, the library with all the, they're running up there playing basketball. But it was very, very hot in the summer there, very hot in that gym. Even though we had windows, but they opened. It was a good experience. We carried the books from there to come here. We helped bring chairs all to here to this nice, beautiful. It still is a beautiful school. You're lucky you got air conditioning. Thank goodness for air, because we didn't have it. We used to have mobile trailers on the side of the school. So we did. There was music classes out there. I remember the smaller children were there. I mean, it was a very nice experience. But it was a good thing to come to the new one. I have 5 other children that go here that have graduated from here. I got my last one. She's graduating next year. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Adrian Hubbard, but I started Greely School as Adrian Jackson at the old Greely School in 1973. I came from the south side. They sent me to the north side. I remember driving my car up to the north side, which I was not familiar with, and crying, I don't want to come this far to go to work. But I came anyway, and I loved it. My first class was in those mobile units outside. So I had like a 2nd, 3rd grade class in the mobile units. And then I got a promotion. They let me come on the inside. But where was I on the inside? In the basement, room 005, right across from the lunchroom. So I had to learn how to not talk real loud. I talked real loud because there was always noise across the hall. So I had to learn. I don't think I learned though till I got to the new Greely. So at the old Greely, I got married. So my name changed from Jackson to Hubbard. I had my first child, a boy. And then my second child, I was with child, big stomach, when we walked from the old Greely all the way over here. It wasn't that far, to the new Greely. So I remember that distinctly, carrying books and little things we weren't supposed to carry with us, but it's like, this is mine. I'm carrying this with me. I'm taking it to the new Greely. And the old Greely, the L train, those people who had classes on that side would have to teach and then stop and then talk. And then another train would come by and they'd have to stop and then they'd talk. So it was not as pleasant as it was. And if you had any kind of health problems, walking up to the third floor for gym was hard on the teachers. The kids, you kids didn't like it. I mean, you liked it, but we would be trying to get up to the 3rd floor to go to gym, which is like, why would they put a gym on the 3rd floor? But it was an older building. Remember, she said it was in 1990 something, so that's where the gym was, on the 3rd floor. And there is this thing about the ghost of Greely. I kind of don't know much about the ghost of Greely, but there was a thing. Maybe Miss Benjamin remembers the ghost of Greely. They said we had a ghost in that old school, and we would be afraid. And different things would happen in the old Greely. One thing, just to reiterate, I cried when I came, but I only had to be at that school a few months before I knew that's where I wanted to stay. And I stayed at Greely School for 34 years before I retired.
Well, good morning. My name is Carlos Escoitia, and I have been honored to be the principal of this wonderful school for the last 9 years. I first came to Greely in June of 2004 as an assistant principal, and so I was teaching at that time at a high school in Skokie, Illinois, and was finishing up my schooling to learn to become a school leader, a principal. And the principal at the time, Miss Aide Alvarez, had invited me to apply for the position. And so I came and I interviewed with Miss Hubbard and Miss Alvarez and a few others. And it was just from the moment I pulled my car over here on Sheridan and parked, I just had a strong sense and feeling that this was going to be a place that I would call home. And so finishing up my teaching at Niles North High School in the suburbs, the schools end about 2 or 3 weeks before the city schools do. So I was able to start in 2004 at the end of the year. And I fondly remember my first day out on the playground, a parent approaching me and inquiring, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" And it was Miss Penny right here. And so Greely has always had parents who really, really care a lot about the school, a lot about the kids, and about the education that they receive. So as the assistant principal for 3 years, Ms. Alvarez decided that she was going to retire and encouraged me to apply to become the principal of the school, which I did. And the local school council hired me as the principal. And it's just been such an amazing experience overseeing a lot of change here at Greely, nurturing the strengths of the school and the programs in the school, and really just getting to know so many amazing students, so many amazing parents, so many amazing teachers. It's just been such a wonderful, wonderful journey. And so I'm so proud of how far we've come as a school, and so great to be part of this video and the legacy that is Greely Elementary School. Thank you.
Wait, can you clap?
Sure.
Yeah.
So a couple of things are going to happen next. One is people have an opportunity to ask questions. And then the other thing is I have some pictures that I want to share with everyone up on the screen. And you can also, the people in the panel can talk about the different pictures, anything they may remember from the pictures. And students may have questions that are sparked from the pictures.
What type of teacher were you?
Okay, over my teaching career, I did my student teaching in a first grade classroom. I've taught first grade, I've taught second grade, third grade, fourth grade, sixth grade. I was doing interventions for reading for a number of years. I was a literacy coach for a couple of years, and that's when I moved into the office. I know for a lot of you just think that I work in the office, and you have a hard time understanding that I actually was in the classroom at one time.
I have a question for whoever can answer. So you know how Miss Benjamin helps in choir? Was there choir in the old Greely?
Do you remember?
I don't remember having a choir. What I do remember is having a patrol. And the patrol were in charge of helping children cross the street. So at the old Greely, we had a patrol. And when we transferred to this school, we also had a patrol. But then once, because a lot of the children lived in this neighborhood, so they would walk to school and they needed older children to help them cross the street. But as the children moved away, more and more kids were being bussed in and are being bussed in, so there really is no need for patrol. Anything regarding choir?
Thank you. I have some related pictures that I'm going to try to.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about the choir. So I think that Greely has has always really invested in before and after school programs. And Greely has also valued the arts and arts education. And so I do recall, I think, back when I was the assistant principal, we had a teacher here by the name of Stacy Garner. And I believe that she did have an after-school or a before-school choir. And when she left Greely, there was a while that we didn't have a choir. So we partnered with the Chicago Children's Choir to start our first choir, and then we also hired a teacher, Miss Amanda Brown, who's an accomplished vocalist, and we've been building the choir since then. So we have 3 choirs now: a beginning choir with the Chicago Children's Choir, a returning choir with the Chicago Children's Choir, and then a concert choir. And so it's just beautiful to hear the voices together, united and singing. And so it's something that's become part of Greely School.
Yesterday, Phyllis Weinstein had stopped by. Phyllis Weinstein was a teacher at the old Greely School, and she was reminding me that Miss Perlman was related to the music program at the old Greely. And so Miss Perlman also yesterday submitted a written history of her role at the old Greely School. Is there anyone on the panel who would like to read Miss Perlman's submission? Thank you, because it does relate to the music program at the old Greely School. I also think before you read that, it's important to distinguish on video that we are talking about 2 separate schools. And so when Mr. Escoiti is talking, he is talking about the current Greely School, and but most of the other 4 are talking about the old Greely School that was demolished. And so the reason why that's important is because when the students were doing this research, I noticed that it was easy to get confused between which school was which. And so try to keep in your mind that there were 2 Greely schools, and so sometimes we are talking about the new school that we're in now, and sometimes we're talking about the old school that no longer exists.
Dear Greely students and staff, my name is Miss Perlman, and I taught at both Greely schools. I taught instrumental music or band from 1970 to 1980, and I taught in the computer lab from 1986 to 2004. She adds, please don't try to guess my age. I am sorry I could not meet with you to talk about the Greely schools, both the old Greely and the new Greely. Miss Kendall told me about the videos, and I watched them on my computer and enjoyed hearing about the school and your questions and the answers from Miss Benjamin and Miss Chevrolet. Your questions were thoughtful and interesting. I started teaching instrumental music in the 1970s when I became a music teacher. In those days, a music teacher was shared by 2 schools each week. My schools were Greely and Nettlehorst, which is on Broadway near Belmont. My memories of both schools always make me feel good. Greely students have always been outstanding. You have already heard about how we packed our things and walked from the old Greely to the new Greely, and how our principal, Mr. Sestar, went to many meetings to help design the school, order new furniture, books, and equipment. And you also heard how big and beautiful the new Greely was compared to the old, so I won't repeat the same things. But some of my old Greely memories are things that are unique or special only to that school. There was not much room for a music class, so I was in the basement in what was the supply room. The room was divided into 2 sections by a wall, and one section was locked so the school could store school supplies and the instruments. This is where I kept the instruments, woodwinds, brass, percussion, strings, music stands, and music books. The other half of the room was where small groups of students came to learn how to play instruments. On days when I was not at Greely, this section was also used by teachers and staff as a lunchroom. There was no kiva or auditorium, so this is where I taught. Next, I remember the top floor where the gym was located. There were 2 doors to the gym, one on each side, and there were 2 classrooms on each side. There was a lot of noise when gym classes were playing a game, and those teachers had to keep the doors closed. But everyone loved being on this floor. Maybe it was because the older students were in those rooms, and by the time they were in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, this was the place that made them feel special. Of course, I have to mention that the school was so old. There was no air conditioning. On warm days, windows were open. The train, the L tracks, ran only a few feet from the school, so every 5 to 7 minutes a train passed by. It was so noisy, the teachers had to stop talking while the train passed. We did get used to it and considered it to be part of the normal part of our day. Then there was our holiday assembly. We had a big sing-along. The gym was not big enough to hold all of the students, so we moved a piano from one of the first floor classrooms into the hall, and all students came to sit on the first floor. There still was not enough room, so students in classes sat on stairs going to the second floor on both sides of the school. One teacher played holiday songs on the piano, which everyone knew, and the sound of 500 voices was so beautiful. One year we had a student who played the guitar, and he played Feliz Navidad while everyone sang. The only problem was that he didn't know how to end the song, and it went on forever. I even remember the student's name, Miguel Santana. I wonder what he's doing now. In 1980, I was transferred to another school, and Greely didn't have instrumental music for a few years. The school was allowed to keep the instruments just in case bands started again. However, computers became popular, and Greely now had a computer lab. I went back to college to learn about computers and eventually returned to the new Greely as a computer teacher. We were using Apple IIe computers then, which were developed especially for schools and which all schools were using. PC computers were too big and expensive and were not used in schools yet. They were only for business. The Apple computers did not have a mouse or a color monitor, and there was no internet. To use a program, we loaded it from a big floppy disk, which we put in a disk drive, and if we saved something, we had to use another floppy disk, which always seemed to scratch, so all the work was lost. Many years later, we upgraded to Apple Macintosh, which did have a mouse and color monitor. I remember how quickly students caught on to the new computer, and now I am told that you have laptops which move from room to room. The new Greely is a fabulous school with lots of good programs. The murals and artwork are fabulous, and your dance and music program are top-notch too. I wish all of you the best in the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing the video of your work. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my memories with you. Fondly, Ms. Perlman.
So as a student here, I do remember as being a student here at Greely back in, of course, 1978, because I graduated in 1980. Miss Perlman was my guitar teacher, and she gave us lessons in the music room on the third floor, which is now the speech room. But that was our music room because it was soundproof. You couldn't hear anything on the outside coming in or the inside going out. So.
So these are some pictures that I obtained from Mrs. Weinstein yesterday. These are the oldest pictures that I have of the old Greely in the interior. This is the patrol that was mentioned earlier. One thing I noticed is that they're all boys. Our patrol now has boys and girls.
Oh, that's Miss Weinstein.
Yeah, this is Mrs. Weinstein. Yes.
Relaxed here. Miss Hubbard.
Miss
Hairstyle.
Wait a minute, Mrs. Benjamin's in there too.
Oh, yes, so you were.
Oh, I didn't recognize you. Also, in front of the gym, there's a plaque for Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is the man with the white coat on and the red shirt. So before you go into the gym, look at the plaque that's on the wall outside the gym door, because the gym was dedicated. Miss Perlman, I don't think is in this picture. She was in one of those last pictures that you showed.
Should I go back?
You could. She's in the top one fourth from the right.
Can someone point that out?
Yeah, right there with glasses.
Oh, that's Miss Perlman.
And when you talk about the Greeley ghost, the Mrs. Gullen is the one I think that was really the one that started the whole story about the Greeley ghost. She taught at the old Greeley, and she also taught here at the new Greeley.
That's Mrs. Golan. I enlarged her picture because yesterday Mrs. Weinstein was talking about Marilyn Golan, and she called her an Irish storyteller. And she said that she really enjoyed making up stories to entertain the students at
Which
the
is
old Greeley.
Where the Greeley ghost
That's
story
really
started.
And Mrs. Weinstein shared some additional information. Raise your hand, students, if you're familiar with this book. Chicago Haunts, correct? Chicago Haunts was written by Ursula Bielski, and so was Creepy Chicago. And Greeley School, the old Greeley School, is mentioned in both of those books. And Mrs. Weinstein explained to me, I'm sorry she was not able to be here, she explained to me yesterday the reason why that story came to be. And she said that she believes that Marilyn Golan made up the story to entertain the students, and then Ursula Bielski's mother, Dolores Bielski, I don't know if anyone knows her, she was a student at the old Greeley School. And so she told her daughter the story, and her daughter had an interest in such stories and used it in her book. So that's the story that I got secondhand from Mrs. Weinstein. So that is Ursula Bielski. I don't have a picture of her mother, and I'm not sure which student she was from all the pictures that I have, but she probably is in some
something.
of those
Somewhere.
pictures. Yes, that's correct.
I do remember when I was in Mrs. Cullen's room, she mentioned that she was related to Father from Boys Town.
So Mrs. Gullen's maiden name was Flanagan.
Flanagan.
So I'm
Her-
sure that's what her reference is.
She's
to
related-
being related to Father Flanagan from Boys.
So I remember she gave us tickets to Boys Town. I mean, I never went, but I'll never forget the fact that she said she was related to Father Flanagan.
If you have any comments, stop me.
Oh,
I
the
put- Which one?
The A&P.
A&P was
A&P was
Here.
right here.
Yeah.
No, yes, the AMP was, that's what you guys told me.
Yeah.
Which is one of these the one? Do you remember which one it might have been?
They almost all look too new.
Yeah, they look too new, yeah.
Maybe that, the third one, maybe? No.
None of those. These are all too new.
Yeah, I think they're all
They're
too
all too
new.
new. Well, because look at the school was 100 years old. A&P's been around for a long time also. So, that's like a Piggly Wiggly, no.
So for
It's
those
ours.
who don't know what we're talking about, this school, right where we're standing right now, used to be the AMP grocery store, and they tore it down to make when they bought this land, they tore it down to make room for the school.
But you
AMP
have to
is a grocery
remember,
store.
grocery stores weren't as large as they are now, so that
Yeah.
the parcel of land that the A&P was on was not like
Greeley's bigger than the store was.
right.
Go ahead with your question.
So, do you guys remember, was the old Greeley there before the train came, or was the train there before old Greeley?
That's a great question.
That is a good question.
I think the train and the school were there when we all got there, so
Yeah,
we'll
it was
have to
already
investigate
there.
that one.
When you guys all moved to the new Greeley, you all carried all the belongings, but
No, not all the belongings.
well,
we
the
carried
belongings
the
that-
books
yeah.
and some certain chairs they wanted us to take over here for.
What
The
was
ones
it-
mostly for the little kids.
What was your first thoughts on reaching the new Greeley?
We wanted to graduate. We were the first class. They told us we weren't going to graduate. We had to go to the old school. Yeah, they were teasing us. And I was like, oh, no. We've carried books, we did all this to get out of the old school we used to have our graduations in the gym. And it was, not nice. It was, and we came and we seen the school, and we're like, wait a minute, this beautiful Kiva? Oh, no, we have to graduate here. We got to be the first class to graduate in this school. And we were.
The lunchroom in the old school was in the basement, and we used to sit in. There were benches, and the tables were long.
Like picnic tables.
Yes. And when we got here, we thought that lunchroom was just gorgeous. It was just like walking into a McDonald's with the booths and the tables and colorful. It was beautiful.
Can you you guys said earlier about the mobile like cars and like
Marble trailers.
yeah, the marble, yeah, those. Can you elaborate like how they were, like how they were different?
Sure. I was in one as I think I was a 4th grader. And this is what I remember. Miss Hubbard, you might be able to give more details, but just a very long room and one door to enter, maybe a door in the back as well.
By law, they have to have two.
And
you shouldn't see the door.
I just remember them being long. And we had to go inside, of course, into the building for lunch. And I don't think they had a bathroom. Did they, Miss Hubbard?
I don't remember. No, they didn't have a bathroom, and they were not as well lit. The lighting wasn't that great, and it was a classroom. The windows, I think, were high, like in a trailer. They were high. But whatever you're in, whatever we had to work in, whatever you had to do your schoolwork in, it was fine. It became, that was the classroom. The only bad part was, like you mentioned, we had in the winter time, and Chicago winters, we had to put on all our clothes, come into the old Greely, the main building, to eat lunch. I don't remember whether it had a washroom. I don't think it did. No. So we had to do that also, to go to the washroom and then come back to the unit. So that took a lot of time away, but we made the best of it.
I remember at recess time, we were not allowed to go anywhere near the mobiles.
Yeah.
Where was the library? I mean, the office.
It was on the first floor. So the old Greely had an office on the first floor, so people had to come in and go to the office. And then it had classrooms also. Then the second floor had classrooms, and then the third floor had the gym and a couple of classrooms.
Trying to get back there.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't have an intercom, I don't think, and so someone was designated a messenger. So they would sit right outside the office, and whenever the principal needed to send or to get a note to another teacher, that messenger was responsible for taking that note up to the teacher. So.
You got some free time.
Describing the old Greely school is kind of like describing my old school, because the auditorium and the gym room and the lunchroom was all the same room, and it was like a basement kind of. Who made the decision to put the new Greely school on Sheridan Road?
I think that decision was made by the Board of Education the Board of Education, the people that run all the schools, were responsible for buying the land. The principal didn't have money to buy the land to put the school, but we needed a new school because the school was very old. It started crumbling. There was vandalism, fires, different little things were happening to this older building. And it was over 100 years old, so it was about time. So the Board of Education made that decision.
So this is where the office
Yes.
was, library, and then gym on the third floor.
How do
And
you,
you can see the train tracks from here, and they run along the east side of the building.
See, they took the mobile, I remember well, then they didn't have mobile trailers, so that picture, that's like 100 years old. When it looked good.
how do you guys think that Greely in general has affected you?
My best experiences in life have been at Greely. I love Greely. Those of you who I come back to Greely, I think I've been away 7 or 8 years retired, something like that. So I come back at least once or twice a year. I love you all. I look at you and say, did I know their parent? Did I know somebody, a brother or sister that went to Greely? So when we talk about what's happening in the school system and how bad it's getting and the children, how bad they are, I always say, not at Greely. It was a wonderful experience. The children were nice. The teachers were all friends. We love each other. Very good experience.
Well, I've lived in the neighborhood all my life. So I went to Greeley. My children have all went to Greeley. I got grandchildren that's going to be graduating from Greeley. So bad you're not going to be here anymore. But whoever is, come back. Always come back to Greeley. Or we try to come back at Christmas season during the holiday things. Miss Hubbard used to sing. It's a tell a story. Yeah, night before Christmas, yes. For many years.
So, you know, I'm halfway for the most part through my career, and the school that I've spent the most amount of time as an educator has been at Greely School, 12 years, and it's been such a pleasant and life-changing experience. I've met so many wonderful people. I think I've grown as an educator. I've grown as a person through all the friendships and relationships and success that we've had as a school. And it being my last year here, I know that I'm going to be leaving a piece of my heart behind. I love the school very much and care about all of you very much.
Like Mrs. Hubbard, I go back for 44 years with Greely, so that's more than half of my life. So my heart definitely is with Greely and with all of you. And it has been great to see students that are currently at Greely and to know that I taught their parents, or I know their grandmother. Just like everyone else, Greely's a very, very special place, and you're all blessed to be here.
I mean, I agree. Ditto to everything you have said. I mean, I came back as a teacher, so it was a great experience as a student, and now as an employee, it's been awesome as well.
So we have been at this for a while, so if there are any students who need to leave at this time, can we allow them to do that? So if you need to leave at this time, go ahead and stand up and make your way carefully out so that you can move on. I know that your classrooms have some special things. Today's the very last day of school here at Greely for 2016, and so they're eager to get back to class and celebrate and help clean up and all of that.
I didn't want to bust you.
And then, are you guys okay? Can we ask some more questions, or do we need to go? Okay.
I'll come back tomorrow.
And if at any point you need to go, please, I know you have a lot.
What were your first thoughts when you heard that the author of the Chicago Haunts book mentioned your school in the book?
I think the first thought that came to my mind was Mrs. Gullen, because I knew where that story had originated, and I had heard it as well as many other stories from her. So when I heard it was in the book, I was like, it just reminded me of the teacher that started the story.
And aren't you a part of this? Doesn't your mom know Ursula Bielski? Yes, I remember that your mom works for Ursula Bielski, so we have still have a direct connection with the Bielski family.
When you guys said that there was like this little messenger when you guys didn't have the overcome, did that person have like a disadvantage, like when they missed out parts of class? Did they have to do like summer school, stuff like that?
No, usually it was a student who was doing well in class, a responsible student, dependable.
Well, they weren't there every day. That same student wasn't there every day. They switched different students. It was so the children would learn. We would learn, but that was like to get out of the classroom. And that was our little special breakaway moment.
Do you think it's possible to build another Greely?
Is it possible?
Yeah, do you guys think? The third
Is
Greely.
it possible to build a different
I
grade?
guess I would need to look into
Anything.
So I don't think another Greeley would be feasible, just given that the building is relatively new compared to the ages of buildings within CPS. However, the last year or so, there's been a lot of discussion around what other facility needs does Greeley have, and would a facility expansion be possible? And it would be possible, although highly unlikely. We did work with an architect, and if you, in my office, I have some concepts of what an addition would have looked like at Greeley.
Wait, I have a question related to his question. What about like in the future, like when it's like, I don't know, 2030 or something? That's a pretty long time. But what about then? Can you make like when this school gets kind of old? What about
I
then?
think the school is going to be here for a very, very, very long time. I don't see no time in the near 30 years this school is coming down. They might brighten it up, put some new paint, but we're good to go.
So here in Greeley we have gifted and non-gifted classes, and I want to know if like in the old Greeley they had gifted and non-gifted.
No, we did not at the old Greeley. We didn't have the gifted program until Miss Sendejas came as principal of Greeley School. And if I could remember what year that was, I would tell you, but I can't. I can't. At the time, though, our membership enrollment was dwindling, and one way to make sure that the classrooms would stay full was to start the gifted program. When the gifted program started, I think if I'm correct, it started with third grade, Mrs. Hubbard, because we didn't have fifth grade, and then we dropped down to fourth grade and third grade until we got all the way down to kindergarten. But there weren't gifted classes in the old Greeley, but there were bilingual classes in the old Greeley. So there's the students that needed bilingual classes, there were bilingual classes, but we didn't have the gifted program at the Old Greeley. Is that right?
And I don't think there were many gifted programs or gifted schools at the time of the Old Greeley. At the time of the Old Greeley, schools were mainly neighborhood schools. If you lived in a neighborhood, that was the school you went to, and so the school had all kinds of children. Whatever lived there, that's who went to the school. So later on, as the years progressed, we started building schools that were specialized, and they would have gifted children and putting different names on schools, Science Academy and different things like that. But years ago, all the schools were neighborhood schools.
Ms. Chabray, at what grade did you enter Greeley School?
I didn't hear the question.
At what grade did you enter Greeley School?
My family moved from Mexico to Chicago in 1973, and I was in 3rd grade. And it was very difficult for me because I didn't know the English language. I just spoke Spanish. So just like you, Miss Hubbard, I would go home and I would cry, but for different reasons. For me, it was, I don't speak the language, I don't understand, I want to go back to Mexico. But eventually I persevered, and here I am.
Do you still, like, in the old Greeley School, do they, like, teach 1 through 8th grade? And if they did, would they celebrate, like, when the 8th graders were finished to the high school? Would they still celebrate that?
We had graduation. All schools had graduation. It was just in a jury gym. But other than that, yeah, we had graduation. We had festivities. Like we said, in the hallways, we had to sit on the stairs because there was no room. They pulled the piano from the 1st floor out, and they accommodated us.
When Miss Hubbards came to the Old Greeley, so did she start? So I don't remember exactly, but did she start teaching in the main Greeley school or in the mobile trailers?
I was trying to remember earlier today, but it started in the mobile units. So my first classroom was outside in the mobile units. And I think I was in the mobile units for a couple of years, and then I moved to the inside.
And is it different when they start school at the Old Greeley? Was it different when they started and they ended school? Like when they started the time and then they ended when they got ready for dismissal?
I have to tell you that from the beginning, I started teaching in 1971, but in 1973, I came to Greeley. We have had many different programs. We had a year where it was called non-graded. You were in rooms by your reading level. So when people say, what grade did I teach? I say 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, because you'd have that age group in your class. So nobody was in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Then they decided they didn't like that. Then we do some other programs. You know, the boss we'd get a different boss, not a principal, Board of Education, downtown boss. And they'd start something else, and they'd have you in a room by your levels. What you're reading, that the whole room would be a certain reading level. Then they'd put different levels in the same room. So basically, things changed, and then we got to the point where it is now, where you're 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. When I started teaching, I was in a room that was 2nd graders who were not really ready for third grade. And they called them something that I don't remember. 2 plus or 3 minus.
P2s,
P2s, yeah.
P1s, P2s.
They called them something else. So over the years, programs have changed and it's different. Now you're a little bit more consistent. You're first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, all the way up to 8th.
There were times when at the end of the school year you wanted to know if you would be promoted, and some people were automatically promoted, but some people were promoted on trial. So if you didn't read over the summer, or you didn't work on your math over the summer and you fell so far behind that when you came back in the beginning of the school year, if they felt that you needed to go back to 4th grade and not be promoted to 5th grade, then they would put you right back in 4th grade.
Yeah.
So things were different.
Could you guys describe something like the vandalism or like bad incidents that happened that made you move to this new
The
Greely?
school was falling apart. Really, mostly
Mainly it was
falling.
like
It
she
was just
said.
crumbling. It was falling apart. Down there, you're going to eat in the basement on long tables. It was nasty. Drinking fountains were nasty. Bathrooms nasty. Windows were falling out. Cold was in the wintertime. We froze. We froze in the wintertime. In the summer, we burn up. There was no on off. I mean, no air conditioning whatsoever. No heat. The heat was like nothing. They had heat, but we didn't feel it because the windows had cracks in them. The frames. Oh, we hated to go to the gym. It was so cold. And the basement too. Go to the bathroom.
Did you guys have a playground to play outside or something?
Where the mobile homes were, we could not go by the mobiles. We had a little space, and then when the mobiles came out, that was already later. Then they had a little area. What you got there is a lot bigger.
No swings.
Oh, no swings, nothing. No, you just stood out there. You stood outside.
What were your guys' reaction when you came to this new school
We
and
were
saw
happy.
everything?
We were so happy. That's why we said we wanted to be the first class that we were carrying books and everything. We got to see the school. I was like, we just got like open a present on Christmas.
Remember the story you said that, I don't know, supermarket, something like that?
Yeah, the AMP. I mean AP. I mean AMP. AP.
There was a picture there that Miss Kendall showed.
Yeah.
That
It wasn't none of those.
It was
It's
in the
older than
bottom.
those. Those are older than those. And it was a smaller store. Just imagine, okay, you see how big the school is? Okay, the store was only one level. So that was our supermarket. That was our supermarket, small. Yeah.
Can you show the picture of the tear down? I can. However, my computer came unplugged.
Oh.
So I have to deal with that issue first.
Questions are gonna be. Yeah, I'm gonna be going to.
Those want to see. So can we pass the mic to the next person while I get this?
Okay.
Oh, it's for you, Miss Benjamin. The question is for you.
When you were teaching at the old Greely, did you have a favorite class?
I didn't have a favorite class ever, and I also didn't have a favorite grade, and I taught many grades over my teaching career. Every grade I was in was my favorite. Like if I was teaching second grade was my favorite. If I was teaching sixth grade was my favorite. I think I was meant to be a teacher, and I just loved all of the classes and all of the grades and all of Greely School. Like I said before, I've just been very fortunate to have been here, working with great children, parents, and other teachers.
I had a favorite. I have a favorite teacher. Her name is Mrs. Bezick, and she was my 4th grade teacher. And she just inspired a love of reading in me. And I think that's why I became such an avid reader. I remember she would play records on a record player of songs by the Beach Boys, songs from that era, from the 1960s, early 70s. And she would print the lyrics of the songs, and then we would sing along, the whole class. So I think that's how I became an avid reader. She just made it fun. So, and there are some pictures of her in some other pictures that Miss Kendall has showed. So,
Yeah,
There's
that
the
was
old
tearing
one.
down. Yeah. You see, look at how the walls were. See the blackboards? Oh, you don't have blackboards. That's smart. We didn't have none of that. We had erasers, all that good stuff. Yeah.
I've got to
The
look
cabinet
at
where the books went. Oh my goodness. We had like a little closet. It was little closets. We had to go put our coats and put our things there during the day. When we're not allowed to go in the closet after we put all our belongings in there. Yeah, it was behind us, right to the back. Those little doors right there. Oh my goodness.
I remember.
Yeah, it's a little room behind there, behind the blackboard.
I remember the closets being used as classrooms. To me, the classrooms or the closets were big because they were used as classrooms.
Yeah,
When you had special classes or you were doing a special reading group, the closet, you took the children into the closet.
Yeah, because we
Because
had a
it
lot of
was big-
students.
It was big enough.
We had a lot of
and you
students,
taught
and
them.
yeah. And you
wow.
see how big the classroom is. It's really, if you really think about it, you come over and over. Look how big the classroom is. And we had lots of students in one class.
Oh, yeah.
Well, while we're on this picture, I wanted to share something that Mrs. Weinstein told me yesterday. There are always a lot of questions about rumors about a fire that happened at the old Greely school, and we were never able to discover what fire people were talking about. But apparently, the day that you guys walked over to the new Greely school, that was a Friday, and then over the weekend,
Yeah.
people went in and set a fire on the 3rd floor.
On the
Do you
gym.
remember that?
Yes, I do.
So that's the fire that people have been asking about, and she remembered that. And then on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, that was when they tore it down.
Mm-hmm.
So it was immediate.
Yes, it was immediate tear down.
And the other thing she said that the old building had some dangerous things like asbestos,
Oh, everything.
and
Had
that
all the goodies.
a ceiling had collapsed, and the roof was in danger of caving
Yeah,
in.
the first floor was right up hit the
Yes.
basement. Yes, it was really bad. And the stairs, they used to creak. Floors.
I noticed that a lot, like everywhere, I see like on the ceiling like stains, and I also remember I think on the first floor there's this giant one. Like, do you know anything about that?
That's water damage. That's the pipes were old. Rain used to come through the windows. We had snow used to come through the windows. I mean, on the sides. They were so old. The windows closed, but there's still snow coming. You feel the air.
When, like you said, like they say that the library was in the 2nd floor and the gym was in the 3rd floor. Couldn't they, like, before they build it, when they build it, couldn't they just do it another way, or was it?
That's the way they did it. We had no say-so what could be where. We had no say-so. The school system, this is the way it is, and that's the way it stays. We didn't have no choice.
So what would you do for recess?
Like we said, if we didn't go in, if it was bad outside, we'd go in the gym. Or sometimes we had to stay in our classroom because it was too cold or too wet or something in the gym. The gym roof was leaking. We did go outside, when we could.
And what did you do if it was like really, really cold?
Oh, we didn't go outside.
And what?
Because
then what
nobody
did you
could.
do?
They didn't have snow removal like you have over here. We didn't have them come clean our lots like that all the time. We had to come, and hopefully it wasn't no snow there.
Students would stand around and talk. one of the things that it would recess was getting fresh air. You know, so there wasn't a lot of space to do a whole lot of running around, but you got to go outside.
That was
Can
the
you
main thing.
you think about it? If you were inside all day, if you went outside, even without anything to do, you'd be happy. Oh, I'm outside. So we liked being outside.
I think we'll take these two questions and then we'll start wrapping up. So, are you asking a question? Okay, so 3, 1, 2, 3.
I had 2 questions right now. Did they have like a specific uniform that you had to do at the old school?
No, we didn't have uniforms. You know what? It's better you have uniforms because nobody dresses better than anybody, and there's no conflict. There's no diversity. Everybody's the same. Like then, at that time, some people get some new gym shoes. Cause we were kind of poor in that day, so a lot of us. And so somebody got a new pair of gym shoes. Then the other one's looking at them on, talk down to you because you had nice gym shoes. Your pants weren't nice. But if everybody has a uniform, everybody's equal. Then we don't have we have time to learn instead of sitting here looking at other children's clothes, other friends' clothes, or anything, feeling bad for yourself. But it's a good thing you have a uniform. And it saves mom's laundry.
When they did you guys said when they were like taking the books from the old Greely school to the new Greely school, why did they do such a recent damage? Like
the building was falling apart, so we had no choice in the matter. And we were gonna go. We had nowhere else to go, so they bought this parcel of land, they built the school. It was already in the plan for a few years, but we were waiting for the time for it to open. So, we had it was getting kind of bad.
And when they built a new school, they provided new everything.
Everything.
New paper, new pencils, new chairs, new everything. So you really didn't have to take everything with you. But some of the things we wanted to bring with us. When they tear down the school, the things that they think are good, they put them somewhere and then they let other schools who need them take them. Come get some of the things. But we moved here in March. So we had to go till June. So we brought our books. Now, there may have been some new books somewhere, but we'd already started working with the book. So we brought our old books with us, and each kid carried their
own
books, and we marched from, it's right over there, there's it's condo apartments there now, and we just walked down Sheffield to Sheridan, and then down Sheridan to here. It was like a parade.
Yeah.
What are the advantages and the disadvantages of moving to the new Greely?
The advantages we got in a new school and knew everything. We could go. Wow, we had a play lot. We had air conditioning. We had heat, good heat, and I was just a brand new place. You know how somewhere looks real old and crumbling? You don't want to be there. It's depressing. And we had a chance to come to somewhere new. We all sprouted when we came here because we were ready to graduate. And when we came here, and we took our books, the ones our old books, like they said, they had new books and everything here, but we hadn't studied in those books. We had the old system. So we stayed with the old system. They said, well, they're going to save the new one for the new students that come in the following year.
And this building is 38 years old. We moved here March of 1978.
I feel old.
A lot of things are new, but not most. Most things are 38 years old. You have done a good job, your parents who went here or the people who went here, in keeping everything nice. Of course, we had to replace some chairs and maybe we would get some new things, but basically the way they designed it, these are the same walls that were here 38 years ago. Somewhat?
Yeah,
There
not
could
all.
be, but mostly
They're clean.
things are cleaned up.
Every
You know,
year,
you
during
see
the
how
summer.
they do a good job of cleaning up your school. So your school looks very nice. It looks like it's a new school, but it's not that new.
Yeah, so that means you take care of what you have. If you want it to last.
Right. Some of the bookcases, they might have come in a little bit later than March, but they've been here 30 years at least. So this is very good. When you keep your things nice, then they last long and they'll always look nice. You're not afraid to invite people to your house, your
Exactly.
school, because they see a very nice school. Someone behind, yeah.
If you guys had the graduations in the gym, then could you still hear the graduation? Like, if you guys were singing something up there, could you hear from the
Well,
library?
the only ones that were allowed up there was with the children that were graduating, and the parents. There wasn't a lot allowed. There was room, but I mean not a real lot. Not like you have. You have a comfortable gym and a kiva to sit in. We didn't have a kiva. We used to pull out our well, they had the little stage and pull chairs out.
But yes, if something is going on and it's loud, you could hear it in the library. But sometimes, knowing that that's happening, the librarian may go to the classroom rather than have the students come to the library.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
We
and
really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Let's give them a round of applause.
We enjoy being here.
And this
And
is
let's give them a round. And we're giving you a round of applause.
you students know that without your work on this project, history could have been what? If
Have been lost.
Yeah, unknown, lost forever. Because if we don't record history, then we won't have it for future generations. So when all of the teachers at this school retire and all of the students that are here now graduate, then we want to leave the history for the people who will come behind us, who will be next, so that they'll know about the old Greely School and they'll know about this Greely School as well. So thank you.
Thank you.